We'll call the meeting to order and ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning and welcome to the January 18th County Commission meeting. I would remind you to silence your cell phones. If you need a listening device, Carol in the front row can help you with that. And our meeting documents are in the white folder on the end of the counter. With that, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We have this year in 2022 moved to a consent agenda. There are numerous items on the consent agenda. I will give you kind of a flavor of what they are. We will not be reading these every week. Item number 2 would be commission meeting minutes from January 4th. Item 3 is bills to be paid. Item 4 is a list of reports. All those reports are either in that folder or on file at the auditor's office. Item 5 is personnel actions. There are 2 items under that. Item 6 is abatements. There are about 5 under that. Item 7 is notices and requests. There are 2 under that. Item 8 is policy guidelines. There are 3 under that, 3 under that, and there are no resolutions. Those will be our consent agendas moving forward. So that being said, I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Karski.
Aye.
Barth.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Heiberger.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. This is now the opportunity for public comment. Public comment is about anything that is not on today's current agenda. If you would just identify yourself and give your name or your address for the record, please.
My name is Teresa Pesh. I live at 709 South Wells Avenue in Sioux Falls. And my public comment topic for today is about the election cycle for 2022. And I'd just like to start off mentioning about how electronic equipment that's been used before and plans on being used for the upcoming elections is about how there's a few groups that I belong with, local groups in the area, and we have concerns about electronic equipment being used for security reasons and also for the honesty of election integrity. So there's no specific person or office or administration that's totally responsible for it, but we found that there's many flaws in the state laws because they're so broad and lacking true definition of a person's residence. And also the local requirements that are required for voter residence, verification standards and follow-up protocols within the local community. So electronically, if those voter rolls do not seem to correlate with the actual voters that are in the area, for instance, is the voter rolls actually show where people have residence addresses at the hotels, at motels, at campgrounds, and in specific, there's 2 local campgrounds, state parks. One is Big Sioux Campground, which has 22 people using the campground as an address. And another one is over on 12th Avenue, and that one has 55 people using Sioux Falls Campground as their physical address. And it seems like there's no follow-up for voter verification of a residence. And the state laws are so vague that they don't specifically say what's required for people to say what their exact residence is. So we even found that people are going to different states and voting in those states as well as in South Dakota. And then also, I'd like to just mention a few numbers, and that is actually that for the 5 most used mail forwarding address businesses in the state, is 2 of those are in Sioux Falls. And one of them is actually located on Potton Avenue in Sioux Falls. And so this is a mail forwarding address that's being used, and we found that there's over 3,000 people registered to vote at that particular address. And then another forwarding address is on 2nd Street in Sioux Falls, and that one actually has over 1,900 people registered to vote at that address. So what we're asking for is that the state, as well as local offices, do more to actually go through and verify that those addresses are actually residences for these people. And even with the districting coming up, it's very confusing to us, because it's like, if with the redistricting in the areas, how do we really know how many actual registered voters are in that particular district? So that's all I have to say for today, and thank you for your time, for listening.
Thanks, Teresa. Is there anyone else that wants to speak at public comment today?
Is that okay?
Yep,
Of course.
just have to give your name and address.
Okay, good morning. My name's Jessica Palama, and I live at 415 Quartzsite Avenue in Tea, South Dakota. I have been a resident of Sioux Falls for over 25 years. We just moved to Tea, so we live and work in Sioux Falls. Until recently, I assumed South Dakota was insulated from the problems of big cities across the nation, including our elections. Election security and integrity has become an interest of mine. I am a tax accountant by trade, excuse me, so being ethical and following the law is part of my character. I have become active in local grassroots organizations and am the co-lead, excuse me, of the South Dakota Canvassing Group. Our focus is to preserve and protect our sacred right to vote. I read a current article by the Heritage Foundation, which you can find at www.heritage.org. which gave each state a score on their election scorecard. The state voter laws were analyzed and given a grade based on how well they protect the integrity and security of the election process. I was surprised to see South Dakota received a 62 out of 100 for a failing grade. Among the reasons for the failing grade were voter ID implementation, accuracy of the voter lists, vote harvesting restrictions, verification of citizenship, election litigation procedures, and restricting of private funds of election officials and government agencies. We know Minnehaha County took $91,266 from Mark Zuckerberg. We think it should be public knowledge what these funds were used for. In our search for South Dakota voter integrity, we have uncovered the following potential problems with the election systems. Drop boxes. Drop boxes have been proven to be a mechanism of vote and ballot harvesting. These boxes are not secure and not needed for any reason. Is it against the law to have drop boxes? SDCL 12-19-7 addresses returning absentee ballots. It states, the voter shall either mail the ballot, deliver the ballot in person, or have it delivered to the person in charge of the election. These drop boxes were just outlawed in Wisconsin because of all the problems that are associated with them. We want to prevent having to deal with these problems here in Sioux Falls and also in Lincoln County and across the state. I am here today to ask you, the commissioners, to please remove the drop boxes immediately. Voter registration database. A key problem in South Dakota is verifying that the person registering to vote is actually a South Dakota resident. If they don't have to produce a South Dakota driver's license or proof of current address, who is verifying residency? We have discovered voters on the rolls that are over 140 years old. Is the auditor's office keeping up with death records? Electronic equipment. Anything electronic can be connected to the internet, and anything connected to the internet can be hacked. Minnehaha County has electronic tabulators. These ES&S tabulating machines have been proven in other states to be unknowingly connected to the internet and easily manipulated. Has anyone on this commission or in the auditor's office verified by physical inspection that our machines were indeed not connected to the internet. Our group would like to see these tabulating machines removed, hand counting only, with poll watchers from all parties closely observing the count. E-poll books. The electronic poll books are the key to stealing and manipulating votes. Electronic poll books have little to no security, have proven to slow down election check-in process on election day, like in Pennington County, and diminish local oversight. These can easily be hacked, and personal information such as date of birth, social security number, or driver's license numbers stolen. They can and are monitored live on election night and can be used to manipulate elections outcomes. Our group advocates for paper poll books only and human voter verification. Our group promotes paper ballots only, voting in person on election day, limited absentee ballots, and no electronic machines, period. Lastly, we are concerned with the allocation of funds towards elections expenses. We believe election funds should be carefully considered when they are distributed. We believe that constituents should know how the funds are going to be allocated, so there's room for public input. The biggest concern of mine personally is the power of the auditor to enact change and expenditures for voting processes without having the public knowledge or input into these changes. We propose open communication between the auditor's office, the commission, and the residents of Minnehaha County. Let's work together to protect and preserve free and fair elections in South Dakota for generations to come. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Jessica. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at public comment?
May I add something else?
Can you wait until next week?
I just wanted to say that it only take 30 seconds. I'd just like to say.
You have to do
have
it
to
from the,
come to
you have
the
to
mic.
use the microphone.
Just like to say that I appreciate that Ben Kite is coming to an organization's meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
With that, we will move on to regular business. Item number 1 is a public hearing to declare property legally described as the east 1/4, north 1/4, exceptions, coverts, additions, section 11T 102, north range 52 west, Humboldt Township, as a public nuisance and enact South Dakota Codified Law 21-10-6. Kevin.
Good morning. I'm Kevin Hookman, County Planning Department. This item has been before you a couple of times. The address for the property is 25735 459th Avenue in Humboldt. The last time it was before you was December 21st, where there was a handful of remaining items, including a silo on the property that was an item of concern. As I went over, we'll go through the PowerPoints here a little bit. There's the property, and if we scroll down, let's keep going. Some of the early photos from the original complaint throughout the months of the summer. The original complaint was about a salvage yard being operated on the property. And come January, you can see this particular photo. You can see that the silo was still there, and I'll come back to that, so we'll go through. So I visited the property on January 11th, and you can see that the petitioner has taken time to remove several vehicles from that location. If you scroll down, the vehicles that are remaining on the site are licensed and operable. I think there was one that was questionable in my mind. It was a pickup that was located behind the house. But then this area right here has been picked up and cleaned up of miscellaneous debris. And the reason why I said I'll get back to the silo is because after I visited this property on the 11th, the property owner called me on Thursday, which would have been the 13th, I think, and notified me that he had loaded up the silo, and he was planning on bringing it out. I did verify that the silo was loaded on a trailer. I was unable, because yesterday being a holiday, to verify that the silo has left the grounds. I think the property owner is here, so he can go with that. But the property has been largely cleaned up. And yes, just as kind of a reminder that this is a public nuisance hearing, so that what we're considering here is declaring the property, whether or not to declare the property a public nuisance. And then that would enact South Dakota Codified Law 21-10-6 that would allow the county to clean up the property at the property owner's expense. So yes, if there's any questions, I am available. Otherwise, we can hear from the property owner.
Questions for Kevin? Seeing none. Mr. Dement, do you have anything you want to say?
On the drain bend there, it's not even mine. It's another guy's. He bought it from me last summer or whatever, and they're just making certain they can get room, and we got to be able to cut the sides down so we can haul it off the property. But it is all loaded up, ready to go for him to do what he needs to do with it. And then that other truck there, I hit a deer with it. It is licensed, it is registered, it is insured.
Okay.
We were just gonna haul it out to a property in Deadwood and just turn it into a plow truck out there.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Dement? This is a public hearing, so is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition? Not seeing anyone, I would defer back to the commission for a decision. Commissioner Karski?
I personally am okay with the cleanup at the level it's been done. It seems like he's taken the time to do it. I hope that we don't have to go through this again. I mean, it's zoned ag. If you have ag equipment out there, it's zoned ag. That's great, that's fine. Even a silo that's tipped over, I mean, if it's kind of on the way out or whatever, how many farmyards have old silos in them? I couldn't even count if you drive up and down the highway. So I am personally okay with not taking any action to declare this a public nuisance at this time. I'm happy, or at least reasonably satisfied at the level of cleanup that's been done. I just hope that we don't go down this road again.
Commissioner Benega?
I would agree with Commissioner Karski. I think it's been a long process, and it's taken a lot of effort from us and from you to get this cleaned up, and the neighbors, but I appreciate the effort, and I'm willing to move on.
Any other comments? Commissioner Barth?
You know, I kind of agree with my two gentlemen, but at the same time, I've got to say that over my now 16 years of doing this, we've had the same customers come in over and over and over. So, you know, don't allow this period of grace to allow backsliding and additional accumulation of stuff. It's you know, we don't like doing this either, but should you have to come back again, I don't think I will be as sympathetic.
Anyone else? I need a motion and a second.
Would the motion be to what? If we didn't want to take any
Not declare it a
action?
public motion, or do we just not take action?
You don't need to take any action if you're not wanting to pass anything.
So we don't have to take any action, and it will just go away. So, Mr. DeBent, thank you. You have come to all of the meetings when we have discussed this, and I think you have made an effort. It's not easy to clean up a farmstead. Then there's others out there, but I appreciate the fact that you showed up to every one of our meetings and have spoken to us and worked with Kevin. So,
I'm Chair, let me say one more thing. We had another cleanup recently, and the bill came to $7,000. So you don't want that kind of a bill put on your property. And keep up the good work.
thank you for your time.
Yep, thank you.
And with that, we will move on. That public hearing is closed. Item number 11 is consider a motion to approve updates to the Employee Handbook, Section 15.5, Conflicts of Interest, effective January 18, 2022. Carrie, good morning.
Good morning, Carrie Deaver from Human Resources. The change before you is fairly straightforward. What we'd like to do is incorporate some language about the severity of violating the policy in order to make sure that we're complying with uniform guidance for federal grants.
Any questions for Carrie on this item? Is there a motion?
There is motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 12 is consider a motion to approve COVID related procedures for ESL and overtime. Carrie.
Couple items related to COVID. As you're all aware, we've had quite a spike in the number of employees who've been impacted by COVID, either because they themselves are ill or their family members are ill. Daycares and schools are closing again. We have a couple items for your consideration today. The first relates to paid leave available to our staff. As you know, we have a paid time off program where employees use that for both sickness and vacation and any other issues they have. We also learned last week that the ARPA final rules allows provision of leave time related to COVID as one of the eligible expenses, and we'd like your consideration to open up a pool of time to our staff of approximately 80 hours to help them during this particular spike. So our request is to approve 80 hours of COVID sick leave for full-time employees. We're open to the time frame. We're open to uses, but the proposal before you is to have that be the same guidelines we've been using for the last 6 months for COVID-related leave.
Point of
Commissioner
order, are these
Christie?
two separate actions? We got,
They are.
okay, so I would make a motion to approve 80 hours of COVID sick leave for all full-time employees effective January 1st, 2020 through March 4th of 2022, and not the original June 24th of 2022. And reason for that being keeping things consistent with other actions that we'll be taking. This whole, it doesn't matter what variant or whatever it is we're in, but things seem to be moving pretty quickly, and to take it all the way through the end of June just seems to be too far out. So I advocated for the earlier change. So those are just two of the reasons.
Commissioner Bender?
I would support that as well. I mean, I think that, I don't think any of us thought the 2 years we'd still be talking about this. And, we have used leave at different times, and this, I think, is another time where we need to help our employees to get through this, and we need to encourage folks not to come to work when they're sick so that we can try to keep as many healthy people here working as possible, because that's a challenge for every business in our area right now. So I think it makes sense if the spike doesn't follow the predictions, then we can always extend this later if we need to.
Is that a second?
That was a second, long-winded second.
And I had a long-winded motion. I apologize.
Make a motion, but any other comments on COVID-related time off? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously, and that was on the 80-hour sick time. Then we need to look at approval. Do you want to talk about it, Carrie, or did
Sure.
you already, the approval of the pay periods?
Yep. This one is closely related because of that same spike. We are experiencing severe staffing shortages in the jail where we have posts that have to be filled. It has a more immediate impact. We've had quite a number of cases there where we're concerned about filling those. In the jail, if you can't make it to work and we need to fill that, that often means trying to bring somebody else in or holding staff over. And with the 12-hour shift, if you're held over, that means you're probably working close to 18. We'd like to recognize those employees who are able to fill in, who are helping us out, and provide them with a little bit bigger benefit. So the proposal in front of you is to provide double time pay for those individuals who are helping us out during staffing shortages related to COVID.
And I would say that is item number 12 on the agenda. I guess when Commissioner Karski said that, I didn't realize it was 12, correct? I believe it. Consider a motion to
Yes,
to
it's
approve
12.
COVID-related procedures for ESL and overtime. And this would also need to have a start and an end date, I believe, on it. And we had maybe talked about,
The request for this one is to start it effective last Tuesday. That's when we had the most severe impact. And the magic of the March 4th date is it's the end of a payroll period.
and when I say talk about, I'm talking about, I talked to Carrie about this.
Okay.
So this was not a conversation between commissioners ahead of time. So additional comments? Commissioner Bender?
I would make a motion to approve with a comment.
I would second that.
I just want to say that this, this, once again, it's extreme circumstances. Jail does not have the option to close like, unfortunately, some businesses have had to do in our community over the last few weeks. And so you think about somebody working 18 straight hours in a jail, that is extraordinary service, and we really appreciate the folks that have stepped up to help. And this is one small way that we can recognize that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Item number 13 is consider a motion to appoint a 2022 surplus property appraisal board. Ben?
Good morning, Commissioners. Ben Kite, Auditor's Office. Yes, so as part of our annual process, we look at having a tax deed auction sale, and as part of that process, we need to appoint a appraisal board. So we're looking at probably having an auction later this year, but wanted to kind of get this housekeeping cleaned up. So I've submitted a list of 4 people. 3 would be on the board, 1 would be an alternate. These people have all served on the board in the past. They're all experienced either in real estate, equalization, and other evaluations of property, and I think they've all volunteered to serve on this board. Just look for your motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thanks, Ben. Item number 14 is consider a motion to authorize the 2021 budget supplement request for rural access funding. Susan?
Good morning, Susan Beeman, Auditor's Office. On December 28th, we brought forward to you several grant and donation supplement requests. There was one that was excluded from that memo in error that was related to the Rural Access Fund supplement. If you recall back mid-year in 2021, the state of South Dakota gave us a grant to inventory our small structures in our county. So we need to do a budget supplement back for 2021 for that $88,223.34.
Okay. Questions for Susan?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Yeah.
Benega.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Bender.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Barth.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Hiberger.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 15 is authorize the Human Services Department to sign an MOU and end-user agreement with South Dakota Housing for the Homeless Coalition. Carrie. Oh, we don't have Carrie today. Good morning, Brett.
Good morning. Are you ready for me?
I'm ready for you.
You're stuck with me, sorry. Brett Johnson, Supportive Services Manager for the Human Services Department. What you see before you is a memo requesting approval to sign a memorandum of understanding and end-user agreements with the South Dakota Housing Development Authority. What this would allow us to do is, as case management programs, I have Synergy for homeless families and Alliance for jail reentry, is to allow us to be a physical access point to get households, both individuals and families, on the coordinated entry system, which is actually a software system that is included in the homeless management information systems with the state. And this is the sole access point for these households to get connected to supportive programs for HUD-funded programs throughout the state. And so what we've found is individuals and families who are at any one of the shelters, whether it's Bishop Dudley, the Union Gospel Mission, Children's Inn, at this point, the easiest way for them to get on that system is through a phone assessment. And the phone assessments are getting weeks and months behind in order to get access to these housing programs. And so by becoming a physical access point, we'll be able to get these households on this waiting list quicker and move on and get them housed and in the process decompress the shelters along the way. So, do you have any
Questions?
questions?
Madam Chair, I have a question unrelated to this.
Oh, can we finish the item, please?
Sure.
Okay.
Don't leave.
Any questions related to this agenda item? Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
And I'll
Second.
second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Bender.
Aye.
Barth.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Hiberger.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Barth.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Madam Chair, in the media lately, there's been some revelations about tens or hundreds of millions of dollars in housing supplements being returned to the federal government. Did we not have anybody needed rental assistance?
Well, I certainly am not going to answer for the state because I believe they're the ones that handed that money back. But I certainly am aware that we had a lot of households that could have benefited from that type of assistance, and that just wasn't accessible or at least accessed.
When we look at the bills, Madam Chair, there are quite a few rental assistance that have gone out in the last few months that exceed our standard. And I understand that that was supplemented by, what is the
South
name?
Dakota Cares.
South Dakota Cares. Anyway, I'm curious about returning money when there's need.
It definitely is disappointing to return money when we've got the need throughout our state and certainly here in our county. But yeah, we certainly see that as a need. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Parth. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item number 16 is authorize the chair to sign the 2022 agreement between JDC and Southeastern Behavioral Health for Qmhp services, qualified mental health professionals, for those who do not know the acronym. Good morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Jamie Gravitt, Juvenile Detention Center. Before you today is the memo requesting you authorize this agreement for our Qmhp services. They treat our acute youth that come in upon admission with mental health problems and have suicidal issues throughout their time at JDC. So I'd ask that you authorize this agreement.
Questions for Jamie? Motion? Oh, Commissioner Karski?
Is this a new agreement or continuation?
It's a
of one?
continuation.
Okay.
The original agreement started in 2013 is when we started these services. It's a yearly update.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Jamie. Move to approve.
Second?
I have a motion and a second, and there was an increase in this year in service costs to us, but
There was. They haven't asked for an increase since 2019. They're asking to be brought to market value. In some of our requests that we've made to try and get ideas on costs for our ARPA request, we're finding that that is the market value.
okay. I have a motion and a second to authorize the sign the contract. Roll call vote, excuse me.
Karski.
Aye.
Barth.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Heiberger.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
Item number 17 is authorize the chair to sign an amendment to Construction Administration Agreement MC 17-01 with Infrastructure Design Group, Inc. for reconstruction of Highway 146. Jacob. Good morning, Jacob.
Good morning. Jacob Mars with the Highway Department. What you have before you is a request for amendment to the Construction Administration Agreement for County Highway 146, which is the new concrete road that we have from South Dakota Highway 11 to the Minnesota border. This amendment is due just overall to an increased timeline for the project. The contractor was originally going to build it all in 2020, but had to extend that project into 2021.
Okay. Any questions for Jacob on this? Look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
Second,
Yeah,
Benninger.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Bender.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Barth.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Heiberger.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thanks,
Thank
Jacob. Item number 18 is authorize the auditor to publish requests for proposals, RFPs, for architect and engineering services for the Juvenile Dissention Center project. Tyler.
Good morning, Tyler Klatt, Commission Office. The action before you today is to publish a RFP for architect and engineer services for the Juvenile Detention Center project. A couple of highlights that I want to point out: that the purpose of retaining these services at this point of the project is to help contain and control costs. Once the RFP is released, the interested parties will have an opportunity to submit questions, which will be answered by Tegra, and the responses will be due by February 15th. And the architect engineer firm will then partner with the construction manager at risk throughout the project as we move forward. The anticipated date for final selection and implementation is around early mid-March. So the action before you would be to authorize the auditor to publish that notice of request for proposals.
Motion to approve publishing?
Second with a comment.
Commissioner Karski.
I just want everybody, the public, to know that this is a huge project, this JDC project, and this is the beginning of it, and it's going to be multi-millions of dollars, and we want people to be aware of what we're looking at and what we're doing. So as we go down this road, we're looking for input and comments, and we're looking at some potentially major changes to our JDC center, and maybe not, but I'd be willing to bet on the side that it probably will happen. So,
Commissioner Redner?
I just wanted, I think Commissioner Karski clarified, this is really a study project to decide what we have, what best practices are, and how we can take what we have and cost effectively utilize best practices. And so we're getting professionals on board, and we have opportunities as we learn more to either decide to move forward with the project or to decide to step back. And so I think that this is, it's a good process that we've used before with Tegra that helps us to make the very best decisions we can with the funds that we have available to us.
Very well said. That's what I would say, too, is that we have not put a shovel in the ground. We are looking at the process and what do we need to do to improve the situation on a JDC, whether it's new walls or new paint. We've got a long way to go. So I have a motion and a second on those. All in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 19 is to discuss 2022 legislative session updates. Tyler.
Tyler Clatt, Commission Office. Attached, you have a highlight of, or a list of bills that are of interest to Minnehaha County. I would just point out one that I feel probably is more important than others, perhaps. House Bill 1053 would allow counties to impose a maximum of a 1% sales tax to finance bonds when those bonds are issued for things like construction, renovation, or repair of facilities such as courthouses, jails, and courthouses, jails, drug and alcohol treatment and prevention centers, along with things like roads and bridges, construction, renovation. There's one that I thought might be worth noting. Otherwise, if you have any questions, I can try and give you some more information about any of the other items.
Questions for Tyler? I'm wondering, Tyler, on that 1053, is that a referable? Is it automatically referable? Is it a decision of the commission? Do you know? I didn't read through the bill. Sorry.
If my memory is correct, it is a vote of,
Voter approved.
but yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can
If
look
I-
at that next
Commissioner
week.
Chair?
Yep. Commissioner
Yes,
Perkins.
this is the Otten bill, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
correct? Yes, and there are 3 different bills that'll be coming in, and in fact, on Thursday at the South Dakota Association of County Officials, we will be having a basically reception with a lot of the members that are involved in this to kind of explain the county's position. My role as the state president for the county commissioners, I probably get more into the weeds than most people or most of the commissioners on this, but this is one of probably 3 potential bills that will be coming. But yeah, it is definitely referable. It's something that has to be approved by the commission and then referred back to the citizens for a vote.
Thank you for that explanation. This is definitely something the association has been working on for years, so we'll see where it goes. Any other questions for Tyler? That will move on to item number 20, which is consider a motion to adopt a resolution establishing a task force for the purpose of reviewing and establishing a vision for the William H. Lyons Fairground. Carol, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Carol Muller, Commission Office. Before you today is a resolution for your consideration and adoption that would establish a task force to look at the fairgrounds. We know that there are a lot of opportunities. It's almost 100 years that we have had this particular piece of property when Winona Axtell Lyon deeded this property to the county of Minnehaha County, which we know is the William H. Lyon Fairgrounds. A few comments before we actually get into the resolution, because a lot of the resolution, what we've talked about in the narrative, is actually in the resolution. The Community Task Force would meet multiple times to review facilities, financials, events, and opportunities. A budget for the task force would need to be established, as expenses would include a facilitator and could include possible travel to other fair and exposition sites. The first steps would be, 1, making this open to the public so they can go through and express interest in being on this, and 2 would be identifying a facilitator. So those are the 2 immediate things that we would take place on doing. We anticipate that the size of the task force could range from 12 to 16 people, and we want them to be representative of community stakeholders with no identifiable conflict of interest who are willing to invest their time. for the public. I think it's important to know that all task force meetings will be open to the public. We'll have public input on each agenda, and we plan on being very transparent in this particular process. I'm not sure how much, Chairman, you would like me to go through on the resolution.
I think that you should read it. I mean, there was an article out yesterday, and I don't believe this was attached to that. And so I think for some clarification of things that were commented on there, we should read what the resolution actually says.
Absolutely. This is a resolution to authorize a task force for the purpose of reviewing and establishing a vision for the William H. Lyon Fairgrounds. Whereas in 1938, Winona Axtell Lyon made a gift of certain real estate to Minnehaha County in commemoration of her deceased husband, William H. Lyon, and that such gift was to be therefore designated as the William H. Lyon Fairgrounds. Whereas in 1942, Winona Axtell Lyon made a further gift of additional real estate to Minnehaha County in commemoration of her deceased husband, William H. Lyon, as an expansion of the William H. Lyon Fairgrounds. Whereas the William H. Lyon Fairgrounds is the site of the Sioux Empire Fair, 4-H Achievement Days, Sioux Empire Livestock Show, sporting events, community events, horse shows, and rodeos. Whereas 600,000 people a year attend an event at the fairgrounds. Whereas the Minnehaha County Board of Commissioners seeks to focus future county investments, community support, and donor gifts, both for facilities and general operating support, to best meet the needs of the community and the intent of the Lyons gift. Whereas the Minnehaha County Board of Commissioners seeks to identify diverse community stakeholders with no identifiable conflict of interest who are willing to invest time into this important strategic planning process related to the fairgrounds, including a review of existing facilities, financial, events, and opportunities. Whereas the Minnehaha County Board of Commissioners seeks to honor the wishes of Winona Axtell Lyon, recognize the community's support for the activities of the fairgrounds, and desires to envision a fairgrounds that meets the evolving needs of stakeholders, including exhibitors, participants, attendees, and sponsors of all such events, both now and in the future. Therefore, be it resolved by the Minnehaha County Board of Commissioners that a task force be established to review and establish a vision for the William H. Lyon Fairgrounds.
Thank you, Carol. I think we have several people here that are interested in this topic. I think I would start by maybe having a discussion about passing the resolution, and once the resolution is passed, maybe talk about some of the items that are that Carol mentioned earlier, like the budget, the size of the task force, the deciding on a professional facilitator for this group, and application process for who may be interested in being in this. Do you think it's okay to pass the resolution first and have those discussions, or do you want to have those discussions first and then pass the resolution?
Are we going to be
Commissioner Karski?
taking public comment?
Yeah, there'll be a time
I'd like to
for
hear
some.
that first, if that's amenable to the rest of the commission.
I'm wondering how many people first want to comment on this item. Good. We won't be here for 6 hours. So, Mr. Carroll, would you like to come forward and make a comment? I'll limit you to 1 minute. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to limit you. Unless you get carried away.
I won't, promise. John Carroll, 621 Chancellor, 5th Street, Chancellor, South Dakota. I've been on the fair board for probably a dozen years or so. I grew up out at the fairgrounds as well. My grandfather, who was a state senator for Minnehaha County as well, he was on the fair board in the 60s and the 70s, so I was out there all the time with him and walking the fairgrounds and et cetera. And then, of course, I was a user of the fairgrounds when I was president of the Youth Hockey Association, and so I've had both sides of the picture there, you know, as a server and as a customer. I'm very excited about this proposal, this resolution. I think I don't want to sound scolding, I think it's long overdue, and I'm just very excited with the fact that we're here to discuss the future of the fairgrounds versus the fate of the fairgrounds. And I think that's really my key message, and I thank you, and I hope for your support. I'm excited to see the results.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I will ask one more time if there was someone that wanted to say something, since he didn't take 25 minutes to talk. Okay. Did you, yeah, go ahead. Yeah?
Good morning. Stephen Monk. Do you need an address too?
Yeah, can I put your
Okay.
address? Thank you.
24774 481st Avenue, Del Rapids. So appreciate the chance to visit with you. I've been involved with the Fairgrounds for 40-plus years in one way or another, working as a user with the 4-H program and then also serving on the board as a liaison and officer and chair of that board for many years. And I'm currently there as well. As John mentioned, I think this is very, very positive from a number of perspectives with the commissioners putting this together as far as a board to review where we're at. I've experienced a number of commissions over those years, as well as fair managers over those years. And I know there's been some other reviews in the past. There was actually kind of a master plan that was put together at one time that didn't really, there was a few aspects of that that came true. But the fact that the commission, and the Fair Board Association really took the lead on those. So it's really pleasing to see the commissioners take the lead on this to look at the future and the direction of the fair and where we're going. And that's very positive from the standpoint that it shows that the commission has some interest and support and believes in the fair to give the community that comfort to invest publicly and personally into the assets that are out there. And so there's a good partnership in that regards. The other aspect that this is very positive from is that the direction of this group, as John mentioned, is not to discuss the fate of the fair, but really where we can go from now. The wording in the resolution that is here is very positive. We're not establishing should the fairgrounds exist. And I say fairgrounds because so many times we get involved in the fair event itself, but the grounds provide way beyond that. When you look at the whole wheel of the fairgrounds, the fair is a spoke of that wheel. And so we need to look at the entire grounds and what we provide along with the fair itself. But what it does, it'll give us an idea of this task force of what has been good, what has been positive, and how can we enhance that if need be in the future. It also should have the ability to point out what are the items or issues that are limiting potential future success at the fair and possible solutions to those events. So from my perspective, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board itself. This is a board member speaking to you. I think it's really positive because it'll create a real partnership and cooperation between the commission and the association and give us a path to look at down the road to give us the best event facility for the community that we have here, and that the taxpayers themselves, knowing that their funds are public funds going into it, are comfortable with how they're being used and what they're doing for the community. So I commend you on that and look forward to it. So.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Okay. Do we want to pass the resolution and then talk about some of the specifics?
I would make a motion to pass the resolution, and then we can maybe make some comments.
I would second it.
I have a motion and a second. Need a roll call vote?
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Barth.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Heiberger.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Comments? Go ahead.
Well, as the board liaison for the fair, I've watched, frankly, a roller coaster ride, if that's a good analogy, of what's happened at the fair. And the Fair Board has done an excellent job. They've gone out into the community, and they've also raised private and public funds for, frankly, the state's #1 economy, which is the ag-related economy that we all deal with and that leads this state in revenue sources. I think it's time to recognize what Sioux Falls has done for that. It's a regional benefit to everybody that attends those fairs. The fair had an excellent economic year this year, even after the COVID hassles. I also think we have a responsibility to the, frankly, not only the community, but the family members who invested in this fair a long time ago and gave the opportunity for us to have that donation. So It's a big project. It's something that we need to create a vision for, and I think this is the beginning of getting that vision started and put in place.
Additional comments? Commissioner Bender?
I would just say, to piggyback on this, in my mind, this is very much like the JDC process that we've just talked about, that this is an opportunity for us to think hard in one direction about one project and get community input into that. Because just like anything, there are opportunities and there are challenges, and we need everybody to kind of be at the table, all the stakeholders to be at the table, so that we can have a clear-eyed view of what those opportunities are and how we might be able to capitalize on those opportunities and what the challenges are. Challenges a lot of times come down to money, and so how can we create a plan that creates stability and helps to be able to fund accomplishing some of those opportunities. So I think that this, like some other groups that we put together in the past, Commissioner Karski was instrumental in putting together the Financial Action Network, where we brought people in and they really helped take a deep dive in our finances and give us some good information that we still refer back to. That's what I think this will do for us. They'll take a deep dive, they'll give us some great information so that we can be wise stewards of the taxpayers' money and the stewardship of these assets that the Lyons family donated to us so many years ago.
Commissioner Barrett?
Thank you. I think there are a lot of issues involved with the fair that are not clear to the general public. I know that I got a call from someone that said, "What do you do with all the money the fair gives you?" That's not the way it's been working. And, you know, then at the same time, I had a fellow contact, all of us, I believe, who wanted to make it into an auto racetrack. And I've had, you know, the costs involved in running that fair and maintaining some of those aged buildings is, it's a bit of a money pit for us at this point. And I think, you know, with this study, with this group, we might be able to find ways to make things better. You know, we have a few newer buildings out there, like the Pipestone building and the Nordstrom Johnson building. And I thank Mr. Nordstrom for his efforts on that property. But there needs to be more if we're going to be able to keep it. I mean, that the Fairgrounds grandstand, you know, it's too bad that's not where they built the event center. Anyway, we could have had indoor concerts year-round, and as it is, it's a wonderful blue-collar event center out there, but it doesn't have to be blue-collar. You know, we need to have the whole community understand what it is, understand what it's been, and you know, the county has just not had the money extra. You know, we've been hand-to-mouth for most every year since I came on board, running our own operation, which includes the jail, which we can't leave unattended. We've spent a lot of money on a lot of things, but to do everything, we don't have the resources. Let's find a way.
Okay. Commissioner Karski?
The elephant in the room since I've been on the county commission has been the fairgrounds, and I'm very appreciative of this commission as a body that's willing to take on this action and this resolution. I am extremely happy with the comments that were made. Thank you for keeping it positive. And, you know, the comments I've seen and heard in the last 24 hours have been you know, the public is excited about this. You know, it's time, and it's about time that we did this. I've had several people text me and email me and call me that are interested in serving on this task force. I would caution them that be careful what you ask for, because this is going to be a lot of work, it's going to be a heavy lift, and it's going to get into the weeds pretty far. So if you're truly, sincerely interested in what the next 100 years could look like with the gift given to the county by Winona Lyon in memory of her husband, you know, thank you for doing that and getting ready to make this happen. So let's move this forward. And one other thing, you know, when we talk about potential budget, you know, I'm thinking we're going to need, are we ready to cross that bridge right now?
Well, that was going to be my next question, and I wrote down a few items, but I'm wondering if we should delve into what those items might be and have it an agenda item, since this is not an agenda item at this point, and maybe for next week, is it next week? Next week, we would have a list of things that we needed to discuss as a commission. Since we did not have any of those on here, I think that would be better, because I think it should probably be an agenda item with discussion items and decisions. I'm wondering if my fellow commissioners are comfortable with that thought. Commissioner?
You're
Barth.
correct there, Madam Chair. You know, I think there should be a application process, and, you know, I think the board that we've discussed to this point is too large to be nimble enough to get this done. I think smaller is better, so I would say 8 or 9 people, probably better 9 if we're going to have votes on things, and make sure that they have budget for lunch.
So are you all right with moving this to an agenda item where we
Absolutely.
list the different, because, and then as commissioners, if you have something that you think that, you know, I would say send them to Carol, send her an email and say, hey, you know, make sure this is one of the items to discuss next week as we continue to move this forward. So are there any other suggestions or comments on this? I think we've done a great job so far of just getting started. So, and it has been long overdue. And believe me, we talk about, it is the elephant in the room. We talk about it a lot of times. What are we going to do? How do we move forward? And I think this was, I don't know whose idea it ended up being, but this was the best way to do it, is to move forward with the task force and figure out how to handle it. So with that, I think we will move on to our next item.
Madam Chair?
I just had one other question. To make sure that we kind of move this process forward, I think we ought to set a date on when we would finalize applications and make some referrals for whomever would be on that committee.
Can that be on the list for next week?
I think that might be quick. Maybe give it a couple weeks to make
No, but I
sure.
mean, as far as the motion as to
Oh,
what we're going to set the
sure.
date. I think that
No,
needs
that's
to be
fine.
one of the items on the list as to when that application period is closed.
That's good.
Is it okay? Okay. All right. So with that, we will move on to our next item on the agenda, which is Commission Liaison Reports. Any reports? Commissioner Karski?
Last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, came back Saturday from Washington, D.C., was in at the National Association of Counties annual meeting for state presidents and state executives. Very interesting topics on leadership, and we were also briefed on Friday by several of the president's staff members on the ARPA funding that we just got released to us from the, heard it from the horse's mouth, basically, what our auditor has been emailing us about on ARPA funding. So very productive meetings, well worth the time and effort of going out to the National Association's headquarters.
Any other liaison reports? Commissioner Barth?
Madam Chair, just this last week, I was in Pierre for the East Dakota Water Development District. I met with a number of legislators. We were talking water issues, and met with the director of DANER, whatever we call it now. It's where the merger of the Ag Department and Natural Resources. Anyway, they have $600 million for water projects, and they have, I think, $3 billion in requests, similar to our own situation where we had $37 million and $110 million in requests. That said, we also had our annual meeting, and as is tradition, I was not elected chairperson. Interestingly, we chose 23 newspapers to publish in. Now, by law, we only have to publish in one per county, and there are 10 counties. But we went with 23 different newspapers, and the cost was, while double, just like $1,500 more. And so we're supporting local businesses along with local water systems. And of course, as Dean knows, our county is dry, and we need more water for Minnehaha County. The city of Sioux Falls has what they need. We're looking at Lewis and Clark too, to bring additional water to economic development in Minnehaha County.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Barth. Any other liaison reports? Okay. Next, if there are any non-action commission discussion, to be old business or new business? Seeing none, I would look for a motion to go into executive session immediately following, nope, excuse me. I look for a recess for 10 minutes so we can go into executive session.
Go to recess.
Let's go.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We are recessed. Thank you for coming.